2 out of 3 people in Scotland own their own home, but disabled people are considerably less likely to be homeowners. They find it difficult to get a mortgage, and affordable rented accommodation is often unsuitable. Ownership Options was established to provide specialised help and support to enable disabled people to overcome the many barriers to home ownership.
I'm Gordon MacDonald. I had a road traffic accident in 1984, which left me with a head injury, eyesight problem and a walking disability. My wife is registered blind and my son also has epilepsy and he has severe food intolerance. So therefore we had special needs and we could not get accessible housing for all of our needs. Ownership options had a huge impact on our life. The difference they made was phenomenal. I live in Edmonton, in a small town, north of Inverness, with a population of 3,000 people. We've been born and brought up there, and we wanted to stay in the village, where all our friends and family were. We were in local authority council housing, and it was unsuitable because there were steps up to the door, and occasionally I would fall on the way down to the car park. I couldn't find any rented accommodation. There was nothing available in my area, but we wanted to stay. So the only option we had was to buy. It was far harder for a disabled person to get a mortgage, and everything seemed to be against us. So we had a meeting with the head of the housing from the council, and she told us of this new charity that just started up, and they were called Ownership Options. And to be honest, I thought she was just passing the buck, but we got in touch with them and everything just took off from then. Ownership Options help with the financial, legal and mortgage side of the things, giving us the impetus to go forward because they were able to access a mortgage for us. So with the help of Ownership Options, we were able to stay in the village and buy a house. The house was bought in the open market, so we had to make a few alterations by the doors getting widened, extension getting put on for the bathroom, the special bath, and the wet floor shower. And now that we have a suitable house, everything else seems to have fallen into place. My whole life has changed by this experience.
Ownership Options works with funders, lenders, independent financial advisors, solicitors, occupational therapists, planners, builders, and a wide range of architects throughout Scotland.
My name's Alec Carnegie. I'm an architect with IDIS Architects in Glasgow. Our involvement in an adaptation project would start with a phone call from Ownership Options in Scotland. We would then visit the house with Ownership Options. We would advise on the possibility of adapting it or extending it, and Ownership Options would advise on the financial aspects. When we first set up this framework with Ownership Options in Scotland, we agreed a fee based on their charity status, which is paid to us to make an initial visit to the house and advise on whether it can be adapted. When we look at a house, particularly if it's a wheelchair adaptation, we've got to look at the height of the front door. Are we going to manage to get access before we even look at whether the house would be adapted? Most of the adaptations really centre around wheelchair access, so we're immediately looking at space behind the front door, width of doors so that we can get into the front rooms. The minute you look at a wheelchair adaptation, you're talking about trying to get a bedroom and a bathroom downstairs. This most often means an extension.
Well, I'm Gordon, Anne's husband, a full-time carer. We met at a hospice. Yeah, I got chatting to her. I asked her out. We started going out and we started sort of getting serious, you know, a relationship. We got married, we had Michael. And shortly after Michael was born, about 2 months after Michael was born, Anne started becoming ill. You know, she was diagnosed with MS. We couldn't believe it, like I just couldn't believe it was happening to us. The house has been, well, from day one really, it's been unsuitable. It's not practical at all. The stairs have become impossible for a long time. What we really need is an extension.
When I visited Mr. and Mrs. Burwood, they were already under the impression that they couldn't have an extension. It's a very small back garden, but I knew they were keen to stay in the area for family reasons, for school reasons, as is often the case. So we looked at using some of the kitchen space immediately within the house and adding that onto an extension, and came up with a scheme which planning thought acceptable.
Everything will be at the back. The bed, the shower, the toilet, all in one area. You wouldn't have to face stairs again. You know, in this situation there is a lot of stress. If this goes through and we do get this extension, it'll make all the difference. It would change our lives totally.
If we do find a situation where adaptations just isn't possible, we would have to advise the family that a move would have to be considered, or build a house specific to their needs. And the team of IDIS Architects and Ownership Options in Scotland could still advise on that option.
My name's Dorothy Chapman, and I have twin boys aged 12 who have been diagnosed with autism since age 2.5. Stuart, he can read and write, and he likes to work on his own in a quiet environment. Jamie, he's very noisy, needs a lot of attention at all times, and he has destructive and compulsive disorders. We used to stay in a semi-detached property with 2 bedrooms and a playroom. It just became too small and too overcrowded. We had to share a bathroom, we just had the one toilet. Jamie's got a compulsive washing of hands, which means that he can take about 20 minutes to wash his hands. It meant that we needed another bathroom or toilet at least. I had been looking myself for a house, but then realised I couldn't afford a bigger house. I was actually very depressed and anxious, and I couldn't really think for myself. Then when I discovered Ownership Options, I realised that they were a charity that could help me. Having somebody there who was just going to take everything off my shoulders and deal with it for me was an absolute plus. Ownership Options just led me through the selling and buying of a property step by step and day by day. First of all, we got a valuation on the property that we were in, and then we went from there. We managed to find some money from elsewhere. My family helped me, my mum gave me some money, and my brother gave me some money, and then we were still short for the rest of the funding for the house. And Ownership Options stepped in and they applied for a grant for me, and we managed to get a grant for the final amount that was required to buy the property. Well, this house is actually fantastic. I couldn't have found anything better. It had everything that we needed. We have a bedroom each now, and we have the 3 toilets, a bath and a shower. We've got a large garden. It's all enclosed and private, and I don't need to bother about disturbing other people. We've also got a granny flat next door, which was a bonus because it was a worry to me how Stuart was going to be able to live with us, as he likes a completely different life from Jamie, and he would be able to live taught to live independently through the years in the granny flat.
Do you like this house?
House, yes.
Is it a good house?
What do house, yes.
Ownership Options are a small, committed team who have helped many people to acquire a suitable home, either by buying, building or adapting. With their limited budget, they bring huge benefits to many lives.
Well, when I was approached to go onto the board for Ownership Options, I decided that I would accept that because with their help, it greatly improved their standard of life. I wanted to help them back any way I could. It helps because I know what the disabled people hopefully think about it and what their stresses and strains and going forward are, and to try to help more disabled people and their families, carers, etc., to gain suitable housing.
Disabled people face many challenges and barriers, but the right home in the right location can enable people to participate equally in community life, knowing that their housing needs have been fully met.
Okay, yeah. There you go.